Before we begin today's video, I'd just like to let everyone know that I've recently reopened my GoFundMe for brand new sound equipment, so if you'd like me to have cleaner and crisper sound, then consider donating to my GoFundMe today in return for awesome rewards. Thank you. Howdy folks, Jamboree here, and in this video I'm going to be doing a Patron requested review of David Cronenberg's The Fly. When science journalist Ronnie bumps into scientist Seth at a party, Seth invites her back to his place to see his teleportation machine. Ronnie is amazed by Seth's contraption, and Seth agrees to let the journalist document his work for a book. While collaborating together, the two fall in love. Meanwhile, Ronnie's boss and ex-boyfriend Stathis continues to stalk and harass poor Ronnie. Seth gets so envious of Stathis that he starts drinking, and decides to test the teleportation pods on himself on a whim. Unfortunately, a fly whizzes into Seth's pod, causing a DNA mutation between the fly and Seth. This results in Seth becoming superpowered with the gifts of a fly, only to gradually mutate into a horrible monster. As soon as we meet Seth, we're instantly charmed by his eccentric quirks and passion for science. He has this mysterious charisma and attractive intelligence that makes him captivating. Like Ronnie, we feel compelled to learn more about him and his work.
There's a lot of stuff in there I don't even understand. I'm really a systems management man. I farm bits and pieces out to guys who are much more brilliant than I am. I say, build me a laser this, design me a molecular analyzer that, and they do, and I just stick them together.
At the end of the day though, The Fly is, more than anything, a love story. The passionate romance between a hermit scientist and a science journalist. It also helps that actors Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis were dating at the time, because their real-life chemistry helps inspire the authenticity of Ronnie and Seth's romance.
I missed you last night.
It's still night.
Together, these two bring out new powerful emotions from each other. Seth discovers how human connection can be just as rewarding as experimenting in a lab, while Ronnie has a mundane magazine career turned upside down by Seth's enthusiasm for teleportation technology. There's this extremely believable bond between the two that burns like a roaring fire. We buy that this couple have fallen madly in love with each other, brought together by their kindred interest in scientific advancement. Ronnie is a very supportive girlfriend to her lover's passion project, and Seth is eager to share his mind with her. But all that goes downhill once Seth makes one minuscule mistake that results in his fly metamorphosis. To me, that's one of the scariest things about this film, how the simplest oopsie daisy can cause technology to fail with dire consequences. Technology is designed to follow programming and commands, not empathy or subjectivity. It only responds to cold objective data. This machine doesn't care if a fly entered its system. It goes ahead with the teleportation anyway, because it's not been programmed to acknowledge it as a danger. I find that terrifying. Seth's transformation isn't an overnight process though. The film is going for a very slow and steady character metamorphosis. At first, he just seems very hyperactive. His diet rapidly becomes sugar-based, plus he talks and moves super fast.
You know, I just don't think I've ever given me a chance to be me. But, of course, interestingly, at the exact same moment that I achieved what will probably prove to be my life's work, that's the moment when I started being the real me, finally.
Then, as the movie goes on, the metamorphosis goes through severe ups and downs. One night he'll be fit as a fiddle, unarmed wrestling barflies. Next he's barely able to walk due to his body's decay. We too go through a roller coaster of emotions just watching him. We're excited for his newfound enthusiasm and confidence, but also feel concerned when he shows troubling signs, and deeply disturbed when he behaves out of character. It's so sad seeing this talented and good-natured scientist with huge potential losing himself, as he forgets why he started this project and becomes obsessed with studying his own downfall.
How does Brundlefly eat? Well, he found out the hard and painful way that he's very much the way a fly eats. His teeth are now useless.
At the same time though, we can easily apply a terminal illness allegory to the state of his health. There are parts of the film where we genuinely sympathize with him, because the DNA mutation is rotting him into this weak and vulnerable man.
My ear.
However, to me, the biggest tragedy above everything is how Seth's metamorphosis dramatically ruins Seth and Ronnie's adorable and affectionate romance. Watching these two develop aggressive tension between each other and gradually falling out is heartbreaking. There was so much hope for this couple's future, and it's been dashed by failed science. Behind all the horror and macabre of Cronenberg's movie is the tragedy of a wholesome couple breaking apart. Seth is too far gone and Ronnie can't do anything to help him. It's painful to see Ronnie having to say goodbye to perhaps the best love of her life.
I wanted to see you before.
Rewatching this film for this video, I was surprised to remember how willing it is to dissect serious subjects. For example, it tackles toxic masculinity very in depth. Like, Stafford is shown to be quite the creepy entitled stalker, and his behaviour could be just as scary as a fly mutation.
Don't you get it? I am finally onto something that's big. Huge.
Yeah? What? His cock?
Crude, Stathis. Very crude.
Too perfect to believe.
Not to mention, the whole teleportation accident happens because Seth lets his jealousy of Stafford get the best of him, his envy making him so drunk that he impulsively jumps into the experiment pod. Heck, some of the most disturbing scenes in this film come from Seth's own toxic masculinity, his rising ego leading him to feeling entitled enough to do whatever he wants, even if he scares or hurts those around him.
You're going to like it.
I don't want to! I'm afraid!
Don't be afraid.
No. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
The film also taps into pregnancy horror, a very underexplored subgenre. Once Ronnie realizes that she's pregnant with Seth's baby, she has a horrible nightmare about what's inside her. And she decides to have an abortion. However, Seth storms into the clinic to talk Ronnie out of the abortion. He doesn't care about her feelings or fears or wants. He just sees this mutated baby as an extension of his ego.
The baby might be all that's left of the real me. Please don't kill me.
The flying special effects were designed and executed by the award-winning Chris Wallace. What makes his work so fascinating and impressive is how Seth's mutation has a series of stages. As the movie goes on, the makeup gets more and more grotesque, with bits and pieces falling off of Seth's body in stomach-churning graphic detail. The final stage has to be the most frightening, because it's the least humanoid creature effect. You can't see any of Seth left in this monster design. The rod and cable puppet for this creature is also magnificent for an 80s practical effect too. It's more fly than human, yet Seth is still there under all of that insectoid flesh. So much so that he resorts to wanting to die in this state. Now, I know that some folks are suddenly wondering why this video isn't a Puppet Panic episode. Yes, The Fly could count for Puppet Panic, but Puppet Panic has its own strict monthly schedule to follow, and I don't feel comfortable letting patrons decide that schedule. Patron requests and Puppet Panic are different shows for a reason. To conclude, The Fly is a cult classic that delves into body horror with an unforgiving nihilism and tragedy. It's Cronenberg at his most Cronenbergian, and it's bound to hit at least one of your personal phobias. So what did you think of Cronenberg's The Fly? Let everyone know in the comments section below, and don't forget to click that like button. I've been Jamboree, feel free to support me on my Patreon, and cheerio folks.